All right, let's dive into one of the most legendary books on success ever written. So, back in 1937, a guy named Napoleon Hill publishes this book. And it's not just his ideas, it's the result of a massive 20-year project where he interviewed over 500 of the wealthiest, most successful people on the planet. We're talking Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, the giants of his time. His goal? He wanted to find their secret formula, to create a roadmap that literally anyone could follow. And you know what he found? It wasn't about luck. It wasn't about where you came from. It was a specific set of 13 principles, a unique way of thinking and acting that turned simple thoughts into incredible riches. So the big question is, what is this secret formula? And more importantly, how can you use it today? To make this whole philosophy a lot easier to digest, we've bundled Hill's 13 principles into 4 main themes. We're going to start with your mind, then move on to building a real-world plan, then cover how to become the kind of person who can actually execute it, and finally, we'll get into how to tap into the hidden powers that can really supercharge your success. So first up, crafting your inner blueprint. This is the absolute core of the book. The main message is that building wealth is an inside job, long before it ever shows up in your bank account. It all starts right here, in your mind.
The starting point for everything, it's desire. And look, we're not talking about a simple wish, like, oh, I'd like to be rich. No, this is a white-hot burning obsession. Hill tells this great story about Edwin Barnes. This guy had a burning desire to work with Thomas Edison, not just for him. He had zero money, no connections, nothing. But he just showed up. Edison saw this fire in his eyes and gave him a low-level job, which Barnes grabbed, just to be in Edison's world.
But how do you go from a vague wish to a burning desire? Well, Hill gives us a super practical 6-step formula. This is the how-to. It forces you to get crystal clear. Don't just say, I want more money. You have to say exactly how much, by what date, and what you're going to give in return to earn it. Then you write it all down and read it out loud, every single day, morning and night.
And this is a perfect example of what that looks like. See how clear that is? It's not a dream anymore. It's a contract with yourself. It's specific, it's got a deadline, and it's got an action plan. This is how you start telling your subconscious mind, hey, we're doing this. Okay, so you have the desire, but you need to back it up with faith, an absolutely unshakable belief that you will achieve it. Napoleon Hill's own story here is just incredible. His son was born without any physical ears, and the doctors basically said he'd be deaf and mute for life. Hill just refused to accept it. He built this absolute, unwavering faith that his son would one day hear and speak like any other kid. So how did he build that kind of incredible faith? Through something he called autosuggestion. This is the engine behind it all. It's the simple act of telling your subconscious mind what to believe over and over until it accepts it as reality. Every single night, Hill told his son bedtime stories, all designed to plant this one powerful idea in his mind, that his so-called disability wasn't a problem, but an amazing asset that he would one day use to his advantage. And where do all these powerful plans and stories come from? Imagination. Hill calls it the workshop of the mind. It's the place where we mold our desires into real plans. I mean, think about it. The phone or computer you're using right now, the car you drive, every single thing ever created by humans first existed as an idea, as a picture in someone's imagination. Okay, so the inner blueprint is drafted. You've got the desire, the faith, and the imagination working. Now it's time to build the actual structure. This next part is all about turning those big ideas in your head into a solid, actionable plan. Now, this is a really important distinction Hill makes. General knowledge, the kind of stuff you learn in school, random facts, that won't make you rich. What creates wealth is specialized knowledge, applied directly to your goal. There's a famous story about Henry Ford being called ignorant in court. When the lawyers tried to trap him with trivia questions, he basically said, look, I have a row of buttons on my desk, and I can summon an expert who can answer any question I have. Ford knew that power wasn't about knowing everything. It was about knowing where to get the knowledge you need. But even the best knowledge in the world is useless without a plan. Get this. For 2 years, a man named Dr. Gonzalez dreamed about building a college, but did absolutely nothing. Then, one day, he made a decision. He gave himself an insane deadline, 1 week to find $1 million. That deadline lit a fire under him. It forced him to create a plan. He would deliver the most powerful sermon of his life about his vision. And he did. He poured every ounce of his desire and faith into it, a check for the full $1 million. A plan with a deadline makes things real.
And here's the best part, you don't have to do it alone. This is the mastermind principle. It's the idea that when two or more people come together with a shared purpose, in a spirit of total harmony, a third invisible mind is created that's way more powerful than the sum of its parts. Henry Ford, for all his lack of formal schooling, surrounded himself with brilliant people like Thomas Edison. That collective brainpower is a true superpower.
So you've got the inner blueprint, you've got the outer plan. But what good is a perfect map if the car has no engine? This section is all about building the personal power, the character traits that make you an absolutely unstoppable force.
The next thing Hill noticed was a massive difference in how people make decisions. It was a clear split. Successful people, they decide quickly and with confidence. Unsuccessful people, they take forever to make up their minds, and then they change them at the first sign of trouble or criticism. Henry Ford was notorious for his stubbornness about the Model T. Everyone told him to change it, but his firm, unshakable decision led to selling over 15 million of them and made him a legend. But of course, a great decision is worthless if you quit when things get tough. And that brings us to persistence. Before I tell you this next story, I want you to ask yourself, honestly, how close are you right now to giving up on one of your biggest goals? 3 feet. That's how close a man named R.U. Darby was. He and his uncles struck gold, literally. They found a vein of ore and started digging. But then, poof, the vein just disappeared. They kept drilling, found nothing, and finally gave up. They sold all their equipment for a few $100 to a junk man. Well, that junk man was smart. He hired an engineer who discovered that the gold vein was still there, just 3 feet from where Darby had stopped digging. 3 feet! Now, a failure that big could have absolutely destroyed him, but instead, Darby learned the lesson. He became a life insurance salesman and made a promise to himself based on that gut-wrenching experience. And that one single insight, born from his biggest mistake, turned him into a millionaire. He understood a secret. Most people quit right before the finish line. Okay, we've covered the mind, the plan, and the character. For this final section, we're going to touch on the more subtle, kind of out-there principles, but they are incredibly powerful. This is about tapping into the forces that are just beyond our everyday awareness. Now, Hill made a pretty bold claim for his time. He observed that the most successful people he met all had a very high level of what he called sexual energy. But here's the key. They didn't just waste it. They learned how to transmute it, to channel that powerful creative life force away from just the physical and redirect it into their work, their art, their main purpose. It's like taking one of the most powerful engines in human nature and using its fuel for your biggest ambitions. And the place where all this inner work happens? The subconscious mind. Hill paints a picture of it as a fertile garden. And here's the thing about a garden. It doesn't judge. It'll grow beautiful flowers or it'll grow poisonous weeds with the exact same energy. So your job is to be the gardener. You have to deliberately plant the seeds of positive emotions, and you have to be relentless about pulling out the weeds of negativity. Because if you don't choose to plant positivity, negativity will just grow all by itself. And finally, Hill presents this fascinating idea. He describes the brain as a kind of radio station, one that can both send and receive thoughts. When you focus your entire mind on one single goal, you're tuning your brain to that frequency. This allows you to pick up ideas and plans from what he called infinite intelligence. And the sixth sense? That's your receiver. It's that gut feeling, that flash of inspiration, that brilliant idea that seems to pop out of nowhere. The key is learning to trust those hunches. And that's the whole system. You see how they all connect? From that first tiny spark of desire, to building a solid plan, to forging unshakable persistence, all the way to trusting your intuition. These aren't just 13 random tips. They are a complete, interconnected roadmap for achievement. So, there you have it, the secret formula that Napoleon Hill spent 2 decades uncovering from the greatest minds of his generation. The principles are all laid out for you. So the only thing that really matters right now is answering this one simple question. What is your definite burning desire? Because that right there is where it all begins.